Peace and blessings, black family. Dr. Umar Johnson. Make sure you check out theriotreport.com. RIOTREPORT for that information you need to raise your consciousness. Theriotreport.com. Dr. Umar Johnson endorses it. Make sure you check it out. Theriotreport.com.
A spiritual aspect, and Jay-Z representing a very material aspect. This year is also my 30th year as an MC. I'll say that again, 30 years. Started high school in 1982, and I was MCing a little bit before that, thank you, brother. I was MCing a little bit before that, but I started taking it really, really serious. So what happens is, as I began to have this outwardly conversation about music, because I've been holding it in for so long, I saw the spiritual significance of what hip-hop is and who our ancestors was using this medium hip-hop. Do I need this? No. Do I need this for TV? No. All right, I need it for TV? Okay, well, let's stick to the script. It's for TV. Now, I say that to say, having these conversations and seeing the art form of hip-hop as it emerged in the Boogie Down Bronx. I live literally 4 blocks away from Cedar Park, where Kool Herc is credited with starting hip-hop, okay? So I'm from that area as an 8 and 9 years old, a young man with no father figure in my life. You immediately gravitate to the older guys on the block, and they was doing this music called hip-hop, and it was in its primary form. It was in the order of chaos. It was a chaos round. It wasn't about records. If you wasn't at the jam, you missed it. A lot of it didn't even get taped, so you had to bear witness to it. So as I began to express my love for hip-hop, I saw the changes taking place. So I wanted to document it in my book, Hip Hop The Code. Quick note, if you want to get Griff's book, he's in the conference room, so not all at once. If you want to pick up a signed autographed copy, make sure you slide to the back, because that's the way we're gonna do it. Because we don't want to interfere with the lecturers who are coming on after each other. Y'all gonna have to do something with this mic before I start wilding. Okay, here we go. So I want to say this is my 2012 State of the Union address to the conscious community and the hip hop community. I want y'all to listen very close. I ain't got no notes with me. I'm gonna speak from the heart. First and foremost, my public service announcement. If you are on Facebook and you are disrespecting black people, I'm deleting you for 2012. We are supposed to be the advanced ones, and all we do is show hatred for our brothers and sisters. Now we know they need to get it together, but we are the ones who are supposed to keep that sacred. We are supposed to show the absolute best. So I'm giving you a week, because I'm going to post it. I'm going to post it for a few days. And then, I don't care if you my mama, you're getting deleted. No need for that anymore in 2012, because we're not making that necessary progress. You know how we do. I can talk about my brother, but you can't.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's family business. And we have to treat all of us as family.
Come on.
If you are disrespecting Christians on my Facebook page, I'm deleting you. Jesus is real.
Come on.
If our ancestors taught all is mental, those who came up on that vibration, for them, Jesus is real. You just got to respect that. Okay? And the more you try to teach them about it, the more you'll be pushing them closer to Jesus. Right? That's just the way that works. So we have to respect it. If you diss the Nation of Islam on my Facebook page, I am deleting you in 2012. I want to keep this clear. I want to keep this real clear, because part of the reasons we're not making the progress is because we keep compartmentalizing them and dividing amongst ourselves. Alright? I am what you call a realist. If you are dissing homosexuals on my Facebook page, I am deleting you. Simply put, because you don't like it, don't mean it's gonna disappear. If I could make things disappear by hating it, shit, nobody would be in my life. not going nowhere. They're going to be here. We're going to have to deal with this, because I came across something every time I stepped out, no matter how many books I read, no matter how much meditating I did, how many rituals, every time I stepped outside my door, there those niggas go again. And I don't mean nigga, naga, negus, niggas to the 10th power. I'm talking about straight niggas. Right? So the more I thought I was advancing, there they were. So I said, oh, hold on. Maybe we all got to move together whether we like it or not. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to tell you, the more I advance, I watch so many cosmic events take place. And that's another thing, black folk. We got to stop waiting for things that take place cosmically before we get on our grind. Right? You know how many cosmic alignments I've been through and star alignments, waiting for the super energy to come through that's going to change our life. The last one was 11/11. I lined up for it. And the shit came, and the shit went. And I stepped outside my house, and there were those niggas again. Who didn't know nothing about 11/11 alignments or nothing. But there they were, with me the whole time. Alright, so we gotta be clear with this, because we're losing ourselves because of elitism, and I'm pretty sure Brother Umar is gonna talk about that. Alright? So let's get it together. I'm not saying we have to like everything, but if we're the spiritual people, we have to be the observers. We gotta stop being so critical of our brothers and sisters who are not as advanced as we are. If an advanced civilization beamed down on this planet, besides us, all they would do would be observed. It would be a cosmic law that they broke if they... No? Okay, is it here? This is the good spot? All right, this is really TV. You got to stand on the mark TV. Stand on the X. Okay, so if an advanced civilization beamed down an advanced civilization, they wouldn't even interfere with what we're doing. They would allow us to evolve on our own. So for those of us who are advanced in our thinking and our concepts, leave them black folk alone who ain't got it together. If you're not going to help them, you got to just leave them alone. Because you'll get sick behind it. Right? I remember every time I learned something new, I was trying to teach it to everybody. And they was like, son, what up? Right? And you get all pissed off because they can't process the information the way you can. Only you can process information which is specific for you. So I had to let it go. The whole 9/11 thing popped off, and I got the water, I got the joint, you know what I'm saying, Griff? I got the batteries, I got the gas mask, and niggas in the hood was chilling. They was like, yeah, son, no word, that was crazy. And I had to start paying attention to them because I was the one who was being paranoid, and they was chilling. And when it all blowed over, here were those niggas again. All right? So I don't want you to think, I'm going to try to dispel a few myths. If you drink green juice, does not make you spiritual. It's green juice. It's good for you, but it does not make you conscious or spiritual. If you read 150 books and watch 150 DVDs, does that not make you spiritual? Some information within the books may serve as, points of reference which will help enlighten you and lead you to spirituality. You can't buy spirituality. I love you and I love the work that we're doing here. We're going to have to get us some shops.
Thank you.
We're going to have to get 5 or 6 vendors to get together and say, let's open up some shops with some people who come. Because let's face it. If I'm buying shit on the corner and the wind is blowing, you got your little table out, or if I'm coming into your shop, it's 2 different dynamics. Perception is everything in this 3rd dimensional paradigm. All right? I want to be clear with that. Can you go with that for me, brother? Thank you. Y'all all right?
Yeah.
All right. Where do we go from here? What was the last thing I mentioned? This is a test, like in school. Who's paying attention? Right. We need to set up shops. We need to put ourselves in positions, where we can do stuff. Also, another myth. Being conscious does not mean being broke.
Say it again. Say it again, brother. Say it again.
You gotta eliminate that mentality. When you see a brother, he thinking, oh, he can't be conscious because he got to end. Let's also mention this. A lot of people with money don't mean they're not conscious. They chose to maybe, walk this path. Do not think Jay-Z and them don't know what they're talking about. They do. They're more advanced than us in a lot of senses because they learned certain things in the craft. Jay-Z said it best. He said, I used to rhyme like common sense. But after 5 million sold, I ain't been rhyming like common sense. He never lied to you. One thing about Jay-Z, I get in Jay-Z's ass a lot, but he never lied to you. He came in the industry, he told you, I am a hustler who knows how to rap. And I'm going to take this over. And he didn't lie. Alright? Not necessarily like maybe Ice Cube came in, on some militant, and he went down, to the state building, and they was handing out jobs. So he grabbed an application. Now he's putting out movies like, Are We There Yet? And so forth and so on. Alright? I'm a little bit more pissed at him for that. But Jay-Z never lied about what he came to do. He told you he was a hustler. Alright? Conscious people, we are almost created an alternate universe in which we live in. You know what I mean? When we don't want to deal with our brothers and sisters who are out here struggling, whether they smoked out or whatever the case may be. So we created an alternate universe because we don't do all of that. So my Morris brothers and sisters, you are from another tomorrow. I want you to understand what I mean by this. You are so advanced in understanding the spiritual and the sovereign law, all right, that maybe, just maybe, it's your job to just lay the foundation so when us regular folks wake up and take this over and get our economics together, we'll have a system in place that they can never take from us. Right? Stop calling us, those of us who are not that advanced, dumb niggas. Stop saying because we use the term black that we are dumb niggas, because all you're doing is throwing shots at your own family. Do the work that you're here to do, all of us. Stop criticizing those family members who don't get it. It's not their time. You were chosen to get it. And listen, I go to all family events. I circle Christmas and Thanksgiving on the calendar. Those is great days for me. Oh, I know y'all conscious people. We don't celebrate that. I get it. Neither do I. But you know what? It's the only time I get to see my whole family. And they love me for who I am. They love me as Dwayne. Whether I come with a top hat, they don't care what I'm into. Oh, this boy into something crazy. You know what? They never judge me really. And they love me. So for all you super conscious tight ass people, circle those days on the calendar. It may be the only time you get to sit down with your whole family and just have a really great time. Trust me, your consciousness ain't gonna vanish the next day. You ain't gonna walk out and now you a dumb nigga. Consciousness don't work that way. You'll be alright. Stop judging it. I go the last time I went down to North Carolina, real talk, they was roasting a whole pig. And they were happy about it. Who am I to trample on their happiness? I sat back and let them do their whole thing, and they had a really, really great time. If you've never seen this, you need to go see this. It's like a whole real big ritual thing, and I get it when we were slaves. For those of us who were, not all of us were slaves, I get it. Let's not be so tight-ass when everybody says something. I can hear the conscious people in there. Relax. Relax. Okay? So spend some time with your family. Fellas, I'm jumping all over the place. Sometimes you gotta come out of the ethers. We so on the front line so much that we don't even spend time with our own children. Now, let me tell you something about women. They will let you worship marbles. You can be worshiping marbles, but a goddamn train running through the house that says messenger on the train, and every time the train come by, all praise due to the messenger. If you handling your business with them. Real talk, earthly business. You pay bills? Okay. You take the kids out? Okay. You took the garbage out? Check. If you do all of that, she'll let you do all that. She know it ain't real because she more spiritual than you is. She'll let you go through that cycle. Oh, this nigga works for trains. Okay. He did pay bills. He spent his time with his children. I'm gonna let him do that until he realizes that didn't work. And she gonna be there to embrace you and say, it's all right, baby. It's all right. You tried. You thought those models had some kind of spiritual energy. They did not. But if you are not handling your business at home, and your ass on the front line, 15, 20 years looking out the window and shit, you're gonna lose that woman. Fellas, ain't nobody coming to get you. Nobody's watching you no more than anything else. They've been had the phones tapped and all that. So, spend some time with your children. Get out the window. Looking out. Get the aluminum foil off your forehead when you're watching TV and shit. I know about the ELF frequencies. This has become something where we have become more paranoid than anything else. You can't lay on the mattress because it's got springs in it. The springs, when you turn on the microwave, the coils and the springs reject and that. You can't do that. You can't use fluoride and toothpaste. That can't use mouthwash. No, you can't step outside and breathe the air. They got the chemtrails going. Listen, I get it. It's one thing to disseminate information, and it's another thing to become paranoid with this, where you can't do nothing, right? We know green juice is powerful, and you can have a spiritual experience, if you eat right, and we understand that. You can also have a spiritual experience smoking weed. I'm just keeping it 100. Alright? So, I don't want to get twisted when you see our brothers, especially our young brothers, and they smoke their weed and they do their thing. Don't, eliminate them. They need the help. They need our enlightenment. But they don't need it shoved down their throat all day long. It's how we present information to them. All I do is listen to the youth. And they, give me all the information I need. They like Lil Wayne? I like Lil Wayne. If that's what it's gonna take for me to sit down and vibe, like with my 18-year-old son. Lil Wayne is his dude. I'm sitting down, I'm vibing with Lil Wayne. Anybody heard the Carter 4 album? Hot. Fire. Now, me 5 years ago, I would never even look at an album like Carter 4. It would be below me, as conscious as I am, vibrating too high for that. Dial it down a little bit. Rick Ross has got a mean mixtape out right now. Dial it down. Hip-hop is about communication. Whether you like hip-hop or not, your children do. And if you want to communicate with your children, learn the language of hip-hop. Just a little bit of it. All right? Our moral scope needs to be loosened just a little bit. We can't beat the enemy because he ain't playing with rules. We have all these rules that we think in a boxing match, he fighting, kicking, scratching, they throwing chairs in the ring. When the ref ain't looking, his man jump in, give you a noogie. Because they understand they're not playing by any rules necessary. And if we're gonna beat them, economically, politically, socially, we're gonna have to break a few rules.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna get quiet in a minute.
Absolutely.
Now, what I mean by that, I don't mean, start going out selling drugs and nothing crazy like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But do understand in the art of war, everything goes. Especially for white people. See, I understand racism. I'm not pissed at racism. If I was a minute amount of people on the planet, and I knew if I mixed with the beautiful people of the earth, I would disappear, I'd be racist too. If this whole planet was white, and we were the black people in the air, and that was it, I'm racist too. Shit, they screw their own nephews and cousins. The Jews keep it 100. They screw with nephews, cousins, aunts, whatever they gotta do to keep that bloodline pure, because they would vanish. That's right. Literally. So you have to look at racism a little bit different. It's just their game plan. They got a system in place. If you are on Facebook, and you're talking about kill white team, I'm deleting you. What part of the covert plan is that? Listen, black folk, we have a tendency to wear our emotion on our sleeve too much. And white folk be in your church, they be in the next cubicle, and you never know what they really into. They keep their plans a secret. We gotta kill white, we gotta be telling them what we doing all damn day. No bueno, no good. If you are a true revolutionary, or you think you are, and you're talking about, let's get some guns and go kill white folks, don't do it. Don't do it unless you know what you're talking about. If you're talking you're a revolution and you want to kill white folk, I got a real simple solution. Load up them guns you saw T.I. with, go to Washington and start killing white folk. Kill as many as you can get before they knock you off. Then I'll be like, that nigga was a revolutionary. The rest of y'all just talking smack. If your whole spiel is, kill whitey, I'm like, dude, ain't nothing stopping you. There they go. Start killing their ass. You can get about 9 of them. If you shop, unless you shoot sideways like niggas in the hood do, mess around and hit me or something. I'm trying to raise me. You see what I'm saying? So, let's stop all the nonsense in 2012. If you a killer and you want to kill the open enemy, go do it. Point blank. Other than that, what? Huh? Oh, okay, I thought so. That's not even revolutionary tactics in 2012. You don't see white people standing on a shoot black folks. They got a system in place from the time before you even born. Before you even put your avatar on, you come from the next dimension, the astral, and put your avatar on to receive your instructions of what you're here to do. They kill you. They get these blacks, take them right out of the womb. You didn't even get to put the suit on and see how it feels. They taking you out. Or they got all the other, things in place, the food, this, that. You might come down here with revolutionary instructions to kill the open enemy, and you might have the knowledge to do so. But after 12 or 13 years of watching TV, BET, Flavor Flav, this and that, you're liable to just grab a sandwich and sit on the couch. You know what, man? Real talk, all right? So, I'm deleting all that off my Facebook page. That's just me, because I just want to look on my Facebook page and see brothers and sisters who are trying to say something progressive and so forth and so on. You know what I mean? Because we're all in this together. I walk out my house, I see the Muslim brother, Assalamu alaikum brother, wa alaikum salam bro. I see the Christians, how you doing? Well, Jesus is good, you right, Jesus is good, you know what I'm saying? I see the hustler, what up son, I got them dime bags, peace brother, I'm good. But we all out here together, whether you want to admit that or not. So we're going to have to find a way to move in accordance with each other. Those who are advanced, stay advanced, but don't look back. Lay the next paradigm for those who catch up, because they eventually will. They eventually will catch up. I've had a lot of brothers who were, not in the mix, and they come later on, 2-3 years later, and they want to ask a few questions when it's their time. But we as the conscious community have to stop acting like we're better, because we're not. The conscious community of MCs, we got to do a better job of really making the connection with those who are not so conscious. And what I mean by that is this. If I put out an album that's only resonating on a very, very high frequency, only those who are conscious can really appreciate that on a very, very high frequency, right? But then it becomes like you're preaching to the choir, because they already know this information. So I'm not saying we have to dumb the information down. That's not what I'm trying to say. But we have to make it a little bit more palatable. When the last time you saw a conscious MC pull up in a video with a Maybach, and he leaning, all off knowledge, astrology, occult sciences? No, listen. These young ones, visuals is very important for them. When we look broke, and we talking raise the vibration, let me tell you, I do the experiment all the time. I give young dudes in the hood conscious information, and I sit there and watch them put it on, and their ears start bleeding. Literally, they can't take it because it's not vibrating where they at. It's so high, it's like performing an exorcism. The power of Christ will compel you. I swear, every time I do it. Because they don't understand, they can't really grasp it as much. So we have to we gotta play a game with them, because I don't want to put out music for conscious people because y'all already fucking conscious. I want to put out music that brothers and sisters who may not be as conscious can resonate to. There's been a degradation of the actual word itself. The word used to have so much power to it, the spoken word. Now, listen to this, conscious MCs. But because so many people think they can MC, listen, 7 out of the 10 people I know right now are MCs. How the hell is this possible? 7 out of the 10 people I know, everybody, listen. I can't listen to all that. All right? For those who cannot MC, but just because they can put a few words together and they got a dream or vision, move out of the way. Because you're clogging up the frequency for those who really can put the work in and make an impact in this particular paradigm.
So now, this brother, as I said, he traveled all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to be here with us. You may have seen him on Hidden Colors. Let me get a round of applause for Hidden Colors. I need a stronger black hand than that for Hidden Colors. I was so happy to see that movie, and I've shared it with as many people as I can, because it really puts the full context of who we are and where we need to be in a real perspective for the average person out there on the street. I've set some people down who I've tried talking to them. They wasn't really trying to hear me, but they saw Brother Umar on Hidden Colors and they said, I need to watch this again. So we need to be sharing that information more. So who has their pen and their paper out ready to take some notes today? Because this is what? Education, right? Okay, so we're going to get a little chant going while we bring up Brother Umar. When I say edu, you say patient. Edu! Edu! When I say build, you say Black Nation. Build! Build! Edu! Edu! All right, so with no further ado, I present to you my brother, your brother, my brother, Dr. Umar Abdullah Johnson.
Was taken out of the DSM-4. This is the DSM-4. This is the Bible of psychology and psychiatry. Everything we diagnose comes out of this book. Up until 1972, there was a diagnosis called homosexuality in this book. In 1972, the Rockefeller World Population Council and Planned Parenthood had a meeting where they decided that homosexuality could be used as the weapon of choice in the black community to reduce our population. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association had their annual convention where they voted to take homosexuality out of this book. In April of 1974, when the 6th edition of the DSM-4 was printed, homosexuality was no longer listed. The same year in 1974, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger put together his National Security Memorandum 2000, which dealt exclusively with population control. He recommended that sex education be taught in the schools as a way to reduce the population in the black community. Sex education has now become homosexual education. And now, 3 months ago, the state of California has approved America's first mandatory homosexual curriculum. New York City public schools are now putting homosexual history into the social studies curriculum. All of the 50 state governments across this country within the next 5 to 10 years will have required homosexual and lesbian history courses. Stop getting hung up in the debate over whether or not homosexuality is natural or whether it is an outgrowth of nature. There is no evidence anywhere on earth that people are born with a sexual attraction to someone of the same gender. It is a falsification of consciousness. But when we go back in history, we find that in Greco-Roman civilization, where homosexuality was born, It was normal not only for men to have sex with men, but for men to have sex with boys. And so when we look at many of the Greek and Roman gods, many of them were not only homosexual, but also pedophile. When we look at Julius Caesar, we find a homosexual. When we look at Alexander the Great, we find a homosexual. When we look at Napoleon Bonaparte, we find a homosexual. When we look at all of the Greco-Roman philosophers, nearly everyone was homosexual. Why was that? Because in Greco-Roman thought, the woman was the handmaiden of the devil, and no godly man would ever cohabitate with the devil. So most Europeans at that time decided that it would be best to cohabitate with another man than have sex with a woman. And as a result of that, when you look at a lot of the artwork of Greece and Rome, you will see the gods, Zeus and Apollo, naked, with a piece of loincloth, with a bunch of little baby angels. Y'all know what I'm talking about. A picture with little baby angels, where those angels didn't get wings until the past 300 years. Up until they called them angels, there was nothing more than the child sex slaves of the European gods. It's important that you know that all of the fathers of white psychology, Alfred Adler, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, said that it was absolutely normal for a boy to have sex with another boy on his way to becoming a man. And it's important that you recognize that things are about to get worse. Why? Because in March of 2013, the DSM-5 is coming out. This is the DSM-4. But in March of 2013, the DSM-5 will be coming out. And there's a special subcommittee in the American Psychiatric Association that wants to remove a diagnosis out of this book called pedophilia. Pedophilia is sexual attraction to children 13 or younger. It is a mental disorder right now in America to want to have sex with a child who's 13 or younger. Many of us will push that age up to 21 or younger. However, the special subcommittee says that they do not feel that it is necessarily a psychological illness for somebody to want to have sex with children. So when the new book comes out in March of 2013, make sure you recognize that you heard it here first. It may no longer be an illness to want to have sex with a baby. And if it's no longer an illness to want to have sex with the baby, that means the criminal codes are going to change, and it's going to be more difficult to prosecute men and women who molest, incest, or flat out rape our children. Now, a couple months ago, Penn State, national headlines, Jerry Sadunsky, a white man, director of defense for the Penn State football team, opened up a program that he would use to recruit black poor boys so he could use them as his sex slaves. We also know the situation with Eddie Ron, right down here, who systematically molested African-American teenage boys. But the sad thing about the Penn State case, and the sad thing about the Eddie Ron case, is the fact that there were black men and women who knew what was going on and chose to do absolutely nothing about it. I want you to be clear about something. I do therapy with homosexual boys and girls. I have yet to find one yet, not one yet, who did not come into the homosexual and lesbian lifestyle as a result of domestic violence, child abuse, or sexual molestation by the age of 12. It is not natural for black people to practice same-gender sexual attraction. But when your uncle is molesting your daughters, and when your grandfather is molesting your sons, then you get sexual confusion in the black community, and that's exactly what we have. And so when you look around, there's only two types of new marriages in the black community. There's biracial marriages, and there's homosexual and lesbian marriages. Some of your children right now in their public books have same-gender husbands and wives. You don't even know this because you don't go through the books, but already many of the new textbook publishers are already putting out husband and wife teams who are of the same gender. And who's doing this? Your president. Who's doing this? The so-called Black Messiah. Who's doing this? Barry Soweto, who you know as Barack Obama. This man has appointed more gays and lesbians to federal office than any other president in United States history. He's appointed more gays and lesbians to office than George Bush and Bill Clinton put together in 16, and he's only been there for 3. It was President Obama who appointed Arnie Duncan. to be Secretary of Education for United States Public Schools. Arnie Duncan is the European who fought for an all-gay and homosexual school in Chicago right now. Isn't it ironic that they won't give black boys a school of their own in Atlanta? Isn't it ironic they won't give black boys a school of their own in New York? Isn't it ironic they won't give black boys a school of their own in Philadelphia, but you'll give the gay black children their own school along with the gay white children in the largest black metropolis in this country, Chicago, Illinois?
Teach.
So we got to recognize that we are at war. And tonight we're going to talk about military and political science. We're going to run through some of the facts of military and political history. Because one of the biggest mistakes we make in our community is we say a lot of things and come up with a lot of opinions that are not based on military law. And if you do not base your behavior, your interaction with your enemy on military law, then you are doomed to lose the war before it even begins. There's laws to everything in nature. There's laws to spirituality. There's laws to diet. There's laws to economics. And there's laws to beating your oppressor. You have to recognize that every time you interact with the European, you're interacting with someone who has declared war on you, but you have not declared war on them. This is why black people often feel so let down by Europeans. Why did they lie? Why did they get my job taken away? Why are they miseducating my son? Why are they miseducating my daughter? Because they are at war with you and they are conscious of that fact. The problem is you're too busy trying to align yourself with your enemy's agenda. And what you fail to recognize is white supremacy does not put black people in groups. There's only one group of black people when it comes to white folk. That's whether you're light skinned or dark skinned, whether you're Muslim or Christian, whether you have a doctorate or whether you're a high school dropout, whether you speak Swahili or whether you speak Ebonics. It does not matter. Eugenics, or the science of racial extermination, is about the process of removing all African people from the earth. Not most, not some, but all. And once they're done with you, they'll deal with our black aristocracy. Once they're done with you, then they'll deal with Obama. Once they're done with you, then they'll deal with Al Sharpton. Once they're done with you, then they'll deal with Jesse Jackson. Why? Because one of the outgrowths of the civil rights movement was to do what? Create a buffer class of Negroes that the American social order could use to keep the rest of us in our place. These Negroes come from 5 groups. There's the economic family. The economic family are black folk who got a lot of money. Most of them have $500 million or more. Then there's the entertainment family. These are your major media, television, radio, and newspaper personalities. And then you have the education family. Those are black people with PhDs, PsyDs, JDs, MDs, DVDs, and everything else. And then there's who? The most dangerous of all. That's the what? That's the religious family. These are imams and pastors. And some of them even belong to African traditional circles as well, whose job is to do what? Keep you spiritually incarcerated. And then there's the status family. These are black folk with titles. I'm the chief of police. I'm president of the school board. I'm in charge of the local city council. I'm the block captain. I'm the ward leader. And so they use these 5 groups of black people to keep everybody else dumb, deaf, and blind. We should not be surprised. Why? Because it is impossible for a minority of people who only constitute 10% of the global population to rule over a majority without help from members of the majority. So every time you see black oppression, you know that there's black people working with the oppressor. Now within these 5 families of the black aristocracy, you can get bonus points for 2 things. Number 1, bonus points for being a light-skinned supremacist. What is a light-skinned supremacist? A light-skinned supremacist is not necessarily a light-skinned black person. A light-skinned supremacist can be of any color, but it's somebody who thinks that the lighter you are, the better you are. The problem with light-skinned supremacy is it automatically indicates that the person who suffers from it has an inferiority when it comes to white folk. Because if you think that light-skinned blacks are better than dark-skinned blacks, then you must also think that all black people are inferior to white, since we are of a darker hue. In 2012 going forward, in order for any black man to advance himself economically, politically, in the field of entertainment, politics, he's going to have to bend over and accept penetration. Because only if you accept penetration will you be allowed to elevate in this society. So a lot of black boys are going to voluntarily bend over, because they would rather be homosexual and successful than heterosexual and poor. And so that's why we have to do what? Start building our own schools. I don't know why we keep on trying to convince white people to love black children. White people have never loved black children. When you study slavery, you'll see that children during the time of slavery were forced to walk around butt-ass naked with absolutely no clothes on their body until they were old enough to work in the field. So unless you are of benefit to the American social order, they can care less about you. Again, stop thinking white people put black people in groups. That's why black boys get treated just as worse as black men do. That's why black girls get treated just as worse as black women do, because they don't object to the elders or the younger. They object to all of you. Why? Because as long as there is a black man living anywhere on earth, then the genetic prowess of the European is threatened. One black penis can turn an entire European country tan in 25 years. And because of that reason, it is absolutely necessary to exterminate the black genotype wherever it is. But our problem is what? As we get into this PowerPoint, oppressed people share 5 characteristics that makes it so difficult for us to climb out of our situation. The first characteristic is what? Most oppressed people love to identify with their oppressors. This is why black women spend most of your disposable income on hair to this very day. This is why educated black men run out and marry white women as soon as you get an education. How the hell are you going to fight your enemy when you're busy trying to become your enemy? Number 2, oppressed people love to look up to members of their race who were able to successfully identify themselves with their oppressor. Although you know Jesse is a sellout, although you know Al Sharpton is a sellout, you still are happy for his success. Why? Because if you had it your way, you would have gladly become a Jesse Jackson in his place. And so every black child sitting in public school right now is potentially a Condoleezza Rice and potentially a Colin Powell, because we only got one lesson for black children in the black community, and that is do what? Get your education so you can get the hell away from these black people. Number 3, all oppressed people do not like to take responsibility for the role that they play in their oppression. Christmas just ended. We're in the first week of the new year. And guess what? We just spent about what? $50 billion on Christmas gifts. $50 billion on Kwanzaa gifts. $50 billion on Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, New Year's dinner, after Christmas sales. Do you know that what you spend on Christmas, most black nations don't even make in 1 year? You are the richest group of Africans on the face of the earth, but you fail to recognize your natural leadership position. As the black man and woman in America goes, so goes the race. We are the leaders of the race. The Caribbean looks to you. Blacks in Europe look to you. Blacks in Asia look to you. Blacks in Africa look to you. And all they see is what? A bunch of people trying to imitate their oppressor with absolutely no excuse for why we are in the predicament that we are in. And why is that? Because we gross $1 trillion annually in the American social order. $1 trillion. With that type of money, every black boy should have an independent school. With that type of money, every black community should have their own hospital. With that type of money, every black community should have their own airline. With that type of money, every black community should have their own distribution network. With that type of money, Africa should be a military power instead of a military power. The Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, Provisional President of Africa, who gave us the largest black and most successful black organization in modern history, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, warned us that if the black man and woman in America are not careful, you will drink in all the poisons of Western civilization and die from the effects of it. Americanism is your greatest disease. And until you reject that disease, you will never ever be free. Because remember, the 13th Amendment emancipated black people. The 13th Amendment did not free black people. Why did the 13 colonies declare independence, but yet they gave you emancipation? What's the difference between independence and emancipation? Independence is the ability to dictate one's future and destiny without being encumbered by any way whatsoever by the government in which the land you live. Emancipation is a business term. Emancipation speaks to the transfer of ownership of black people in America. 3 million slaves. The owners voluntarily gave the government ownership of your ancestors, and they paid them for the transaction. So the Emancipation Proclamation does not mean black people are free. It simply means that individual white people no longer own you. The entire United States government owns you. You can take the slave out of slavery all you want, but until the slave takes the slave out of himself, he'll never be free. The reason why we're so unsuccessful fighting our enemy is because most of us fail to recognize that while we fight the white man outside of us, most of us are at war with the white person living inside of us. Every black woman got a white little girl living inside of you, and until you exorcise her from your spirit, you can't get free. And every black man got a little white boy living inside of you, and until you reject them from your spirit, you'll never be free. As the Bible teaches you, a house divided against itself cannot stand. A man should never fight 2 wars at once until there is a psychological revolution. Until black people fundamentally change the way we think about ourselves, each other, our enemy, and our future, we'll never be able to get out of this situation. Many of us are trying to bring about an economic revolution, an educational revolution, a cultural revolution, an industrial revolution. It cannot happen because man is mine. And until you change the minds of blacks, you'll never be able to change the condition of blacks. And that's why the Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Garvey, Provisional President of Africa, said what? If you free the minds of men, ultimately you free their bodies. Let's get into today's presentation. Thank you.
Brothers today who showed us some love, so give it up for Professor Griff, please. Love to the vendors, support the vendors. Give another hand for the vendors. And definitely, please meet us in the VIP room, which is just directly behind you. Brother Griff has his table there. Brother Black Dot, I have a table. There are also some other vendors who you might not have been able to see here. So make sure you support us and everyone again. Ujaba! Alright, we know that means cooperative economics. So when I see y'all again and I ask you, I don't want to hear all these different answers, okay? Now, we truly hope that you learned something. Who learned something today? That's everybody. Can I get an ashe? Alright, so at this time, you can enjoy the music from DJ Fourth World. We have the wonderful vendors here. Make sure to support them. Also, the R. Kelly Music Group is supporting it.
This is Brother Black Dot down here at ATL 630 Convention Center. It's an awesome spot. This was our first event here. The event was awesome. It was standing room only, literally. Professor Griff, the legendary Professor Griff from Public Enemy, opened up. I followed behind him and we set the stage for Dr. Umar, Abdullah Johnson, and he came through and took it to a whole nother level on valuable information that we need in this day and time. We're going to remove the spookism. We need help in our community, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jew, Israelite, Moorish. We got to remove all those boundaries, and that's what I spoke about, removing those boundaries. You my brother, you my sister, and that's what we're going to deal with in 2012. At least that's what I'm going to be dealing with, because we do a lot of talking about the very people that we're supposed to be helping as if we're better than them. We are not. We are all one. And until we recognize that we got to move as one, we're going to always be stagnant. So this is the Black Dot. We're in the building. It's lovely. We're going to be doing events here all the time. So whenever they call me, I'm here. Straight from New York, Jedi flight. That's what it is. Peace.
Peace tonight. My name is Sarah, and we're wrapping up a powerful lecture. Three amazing brothers, Black Dot, Dr. Umar Johnson. I mean, this is exactly what we need. We need strategies to move forward, not just talk about it, but think about it. It was a packed house, the energy was high, everybody was here to motivate. You know, we have the vendors, we have family in the house. This is beautiful. We need to get to know y'all will see me at the next meeting.
Peace, peace. This is Soul Inside Universal Zulu Nation, Nation of Gods and Earth, a little bit of everything. But I'm here at the Professor Griff Black Dot event. Brother Umar, they dropping jewels. It was a serious event. I mean, something that we really needed as a people, especially with now we understanding the children being in the state that they're in. This is really important. But I really enjoyed myself. As usual, I'm always learning something, and I learned tonight. So Messiah, peace to the planet.
Now. Peace and blessings, Black family. Dr. Umar Johnson here at the close of an historic event with Professor Griff of Public Enemy, Black Dot, and myself. I dealt with the anatomy of strategy and introduction to political and military science for Black revolutionaries. Very well attended, packed house. I got a lot of love here tonight. Professor Griff was wonderful, Black Dot was wonderful. I look forward to coming back to Atlanta. February the 26th and the 27th, I will be at the University of Georgia, Athens, and I'll be back again March 24th for a lecture with my good friend Boz Moreno. Check me out, DrUmarJohnson.com. Again, DrUmarJohnson.com, 215-989-9858. We can put your kid in special education or medication or allow them to get diagnosed with a learning disability or ADHD.
We want to set somebody free right here tonight.
Check with me first, parents. Don't throw your child's education away.
Please, if you got a good
white man's opinion.
set somebody free.
Peace, this is Brother Black Dot from NYC, author of the book Hip Hop Decoded. I'm giving it up to the Riot Report. When you want that real information that's going to resonate here, you check the Riot Report. Peace.